Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Hello everybody and welcome to another installment of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host, and as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Happy Saturday. I hope everybody's enjoying their weekend. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here. It's great to be here in front of you guys. So, got quite a few things to talk about today. We got, a lot going on here down south, so we're going to go ahead and jump into all of that. I would love to start things off where we normally go with Tampa Bay, but before I can do that, as Taryn most definitely just pointed out, it was a wonderful show on 3 and Out. We were covering eight divisions in 8 days. It was absolutely phenomenal to be a part of that, and I was very glad to share my insight of what's going on in Tampa Bay. If you haven't heard about that podcast or that specific radio show, I encourage you to go over and check it out. It's on pretty much everywhere where my show is at. You'll find it there, as well as we are all together under the same umbrella. So go check it out if you haven't heard it. It was a wonderful chance to talk about Tampa Bay and what's going on here down south and what we believe will take place in the NFC South. So, with that being said, let us mosey right on into what's going on in Tampa Bay. And this is going to be very interesting. This is actually something I couldn't wait to talk about because I have a huge opinion on it. So, guys, let's go ahead and dive right into this information. The first thing I want to talk about isn't something typical that we would normally mention on the show, but it's very important nonetheless. So, for those of you who keep up with Tampa Bay's team from that Super Bowl year, that roster that's quietly one of the best rosters you'll probably ever see in NFL history, our all-pro tackle, who was a rookie then, Tristan Wirfs, was playing at right tackle, has since moved over to left tackle to help solidify that line in a very young and developing offensive perspective. And when I mean offensive perspective, I don't just mean the offensive line. I mean also the tight ends. I mean also the running backs. I mean also the receivers, because Mike Evans is our longest now tenured Buccaneer on the team, aside from Lavonte David. So we've got one on offense, one on defense. Outside of that, everybody's young, guys. Everybody's very, very young. And that brings the attention that Tristan Wirfs is receiving to light, which is that he recently sought out help from the team psychologist, after the switch over from right tackle to left tackle. Now, you might say, Corey, why is that interesting, or why does that matter in the game of football? Well, in anything you do, all right, especially anything that you love in life, and if you've lived long enough, you probably already know this, you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. You're going to have success and you're going to have failures. You're going to have opportunities and lost opportunities, okay? The trick is to keep going. If there's anything that I've learned in this game of life, it's to protect who you are and not lose it to the world, right? And one of the easy ways to lose something to the world, especially something that you love, including yourself, is to fail. right? And what happens when you fail? People talk. I mean, obviously people talk when you succeed too, but just like any championship season, within 6 months to a year, nobody's talking about what happened the year before, okay? I remember watching the Miami Heat win back-to-back NBA titles, and there was more heat on LeBron, pun intended, than there was when he lost. Because when he lost, it was all, we knew he wasn't going to live up to his dreams, and this is what we expect. But when he win, it's like, of course, it's about time he won, and it would seem almost as if the winning had some type of negative connotation to it when that shouldn't be the case. So let me be the first to say, Tristan, you are a man's man, and I really hope the best comes out of this for you, because it takes a mature, a leadership-based man to say, hey, you know what? I'm dealing with this the wrong way, and I need some help, and I'm going to go seek that help. We live in a world where men don't talk about their issues anymore, and that's a big issue, right? That's a big problem. When you see people, and I'm going to use Antonio Brown for example, going through the things that he's going through but not seeking help, it really shows where we are as a society. And that's not what this show is about. But guys, it goes hand in hand, because we're the same people that go watch them play football every Sunday. We're the same guys who pull up to the practices and want autographs and want them to take pictures with us. Okay, guys? So that's just something for us to take in consideration, that these people aren't just superstars. They're not just football players. They're not just rich people, as a lot of people just decide to cast them off to be. They're humans. They have a life, and they go through stuff too. And that's what I really like about Tristan Wirfs going out and seeking the help from the psychiatrist. This is something, like I said, that should be done more often. And it doesn't matter what the issue is, right? If there's something going on, talk about it, get help, and do what you can to become better, and know that it's just part of the journey. For Tristan, he highlights debilitating anxiety for the reason and cause to seek out that help, and that's something that I myself personally can completely understand. Whenever I was doing something that I cared about, or even just in school, I would develop anxiety, and I wouldn't know how to express it or deal with it, because it's just such a painful feeling in the chest that comes along with doubt and uncertainty, worries. But it's all part of being human, I think. I'm not sure if anybody ever doesn't experience anxiety at some point in their time, whether it's work-related or school-related or relationship-related. So I can only imagine what this young man's going through, but I commend him for stepping up and seeking the help that he needed, especially knowing that we live in a world today where people don't talk enough about these issues. So good job, Tristan Wirfs. Very proud of that young man. Now on to more definitively good news. Rondé Barber is now in the Hall of Fame. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the legendary Rondé Barber, allow me to give you a quick lesson on who this man is. Rondé Barber is arguably the greatest cornerback to ever play for Tampa Bay. To have a tenure, with that being said, because I do understand that Darrelle Revis played for Tampa Bay back in the day, but he played for one season with us, okay? Rondé Barber had been there with us for 16 or 17 seasons, and more or less has been effective since a rookie, okay? The man has the ability to play outside or inside, doesn't matter which, position. He's also been at safety before, but more directly, excuse me, my apologies, guys. More directly, I want to highlight a stat that's very rarely seen on the defensive side of the ball. This man is one of only, 2 or 3 cornerbacks in history to have multiple interceptions and sacks in the same season against the same quarterback, okay, which would be Donovan McNabb, for those of you who remember, in 2002. But more specifically, this man has recorded over 40 interceptions and 20 sacks. That is huge. Imagine having a guy as flexible as Rondé, with the level of high football IQ that he possesses, on a normal basis. Now add him to a team that saw the likes of Warren Sapp and John Lynch and Derrick Brooks, who are also all in the Hall of Fame, may I add. Okay, recording one of the single greatest defenses in NFL history. Rondé Barber absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. This is a wonderful celebration for us down here in Tampa Bay, as he is part of arguably the most iconic both photo and video that you will ever see in Tampa Bay history, and that would be Rondé Barber's 96-yard interception returned for a touchdown in the NFC Championship game of the 2002 season against Donovan McNabb, which ultimately sealed the game, taking us up, I believe it was 26-10 with under 5 minutes to play in the ball game. Rondé Barber is an absolute dog. He's one of the best and most underrated cornerbacks to ever do it. He absolutely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and after a long time coming, he is finally there. So, from the bottom of all our hearts, here in Tampa Bay, Rondé, we say congratulations and thank you so much for everything that you did, everything that you meant to the city of Tampa. You personally are one of my favorite players to ever do it, and I really enjoyed getting the opportunity, short opportunity, but opportunity nonetheless, to meet you and to see you play the game. Again, congratulations, Rondé Barber. We're very proud of you. Now, moving on from that, the last bit of information to talk about is actually just a little bit more detailed about something we were talking about last week, and that's the preseason approaching. So, I went over what to expect for the preseason last week. The first game is going to be against the Steelers, which almost pretty much just means there's not going to be any starter play outside of possibly Baker Mayfield and Kenny Pickett at quarter. Maybe the first quarter they'll play at best, but I don't see them going out of the first half. With that being said, the Steelers-Buccaneers, I mentioned last week, they were always a rivalry, especially in the regular season. So when you look at the history of these two teams, the Steelers have typically beat Tampa Bay, and so as a result, it's not hard to believe that the situation will be any different here in the preseason. But as a Tampa Bay fan, I will tell you, obviously, we can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will we? I don't know. It's preseason. We'll have to wait and see. Essentially, it's a toss-up, but this should give us a very good chance to show us what level our young players, 27 undrafted players on this team, okay, guys? Or not undrafted, but first-year players. I said undrafted. First-year players on this team. It should give us a chance to see how these guys perform and see what to expect from them moving forward. So I look forward to seeing what takes place there on Friday night. Again, that's going to be Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m. against the Steelers. So that's next Friday, guys. All right, next Friday. So for the Fins fans out there, that means you'll be flipping back and forth because the Fins also play on Friday. Jags play on Saturday. So I'll get to that in a second. But like I said, that first game, Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m. versus the Steelers. Be there, check out these two young teams, and let's see what they have to offer moving forward, all right? That's enough for Tampa Bay, guys. Let's go ahead and move over to Duval, I should say, with the Jaguars. The Jaguars have a little bit of a problem going on right now, and this problem comes in the form of cornerback Tyson Campbell suffering a concussion at the end of Saturday's practice. That's not good news for a team that was already a little bit lighter on the defensive side of things as far as depth is concerned. So, I'm not sure how they're going to address this issue, but I can tell you this. Both the Jags and the Fins have both lost cornerbacks due to injury over this past week and weekend, with Jalen Ramsey going down earlier last week and then now Tyson Campbell. So guys, I just hoping that these safety issues start to get a little bit better. Of course, we see injuries happen all the time, but you hate to see it. So, that's not good news for the Jags. Hopefully, he's going to be A-okay and be able to come back. But obviously, with the way concussions, especially, you guys know I'm going to harp on this because protecting your players is key, is very important. If y'all remember what happened to the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa last year with his back-to-back concussion issue. So, hoping that the best comes out of Tyson Campbell. This is a team I really look forward to seeing. It's a very young team with a lot of continuity right now, and I would hate to see one of their better defensive players go down with a reoccurring issue, especially to start the season with. So get better, Tyson Campbell. We can't wait to see you come back. On the brighter side of things, offensive tackle Tyler Shatley is now recovered from an abdominal heartbeat, which originally held him from practice. Okay, so as you guys know, I mentioned earlier, safety first, right? Especially if you're a bigger guy, all right? Especially if you're a bigger guy. When you're a bigger guy, there's a little bit more room for issue and injury than there is for form-fit individuals. And I'm not saying that as a weight issue. I'm saying that from a production issue. I'm pretty sure you guys know I'm going with this. With more mass comes more responsibility, right? It's a simple law of physics, okay? More accountability, more responsibility, the bigger something is. So, in the offensive defensive realm of things, for instance, we saw Vita Vea, I think he broke his ankle a couple of years ago, actually, and it was on a routine play. It was on a freak play where you would think that he would normally be fine. So it's one of those things where I say, they have to be AA careful, and this is an example of that, because an irregular heartbeat is something that can lead to many, many other issues that are non-physical in nature, okay? So I'm very happy that he's recovered from that, and here's hoping that he doesn't have that issue anymore moving forward. But he has recovered, and he is now back at practice with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there's a piece of good news for for that very young offensive team that they have in Duval. They got one of their guys at O-line back. Good job there, guys. Now, their first preseason game is going to be against the Dallas Cowboys. That game, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be taking place on a Saturday. That's Saturday, August 12th, so the day after both the Fins and the Buccaneers play. So get ready for that if you want to check out this young Jaguars team. They're playing a game Cowboys team, which has seen a resurgence go on. However, I don't have faith in the Cowboys. I think that the curse that I don't want to say maybe it was a curse, maybe it was some type of spell that they casted has worn off after those 3 out of 4 Super Bowl victories in the early 1990s. The Cowboys have been a bit of a struggle, okay? So, yes, Dak Prescott, one of the better quarterbacks in the league, inconsistent at best. Defense is going to have to show us something, especially after how they were to end the season last year, more specifically than the playoff game against Tampa Bay. That Tampa Bay team was already run down and pretty much destroyed. So we'll have to wait and see when the regular season starts. But if you're looking forward to that game, Saturday, August 12th, 5 p.m., Jags versus Boys. Be there, check it out. Let's see how this team does. I'm going to be checking it out myself. I'll be going back and forth between that and the UFC event, guys. So, lastly in the NFL, we have the Fins. The Fins also saw a legend respective to their team go to the Hall of Fame. This is a man I got the pleasure to grow up and actually watch, and let me tell you, he's worth every bit of the Hall of Fame bus that they created for him, much like Rondé Barber is. One, Zach Thomas has entered the NFL Hall of Fame, enshrined in Canton forever now, and he deserves it. Let me tell you, this guy was a smaller, faster Brian Urlacher. He just didn't play in the NFC North, okay? So if you guys ever saw Brian Urlacher, that man was a dog, all right? Certified, one of the better linebackers to ever do it. Let me tell you, Zach Thomas has a lot of him in his game, all right? The man was tremendous in the hole. He was a one-stop shop for getting rocked if you had the rock. If you like what I did there, put it in the chat, because I felt that was off the dome. I thought it was pretty cool. But you get what I'm saying. The man was an absolute stud at linebacker. He made the Pro Bowl. He could have been a champion if this team had actually had an offense during the time that they played. They had offensive pieces but could never put it together. Never had any continuity. So congratulations to Zach Thomas for making it to the Hall of Fame. As I mentioned before, he absolutely deserves it. If you didn't get a chance to watch this man play, go check his highlights out. Go see what he was all about. Like I said, he was just a smaller yet faster version, in my opinion, of Brian Urlacher. Really had great command of the defense. It was also the second level to what was his name? Was it Jason Taylor, the defensive lineman that they had that also recently went into the Hall of Fame a few years ago? That defense was pretty nutty when they were on it. So, like I said, if you haven't checked it out, this is your hint. Go check it out. That's some good football to watch right there, boys and girls. Now, the Fins signed safety Miles Dorn and linebacker Mike Rose in a team that was already seeing some injuries during the offseason, more injuries than both the Buccaneers and the Jags, actually, to be frank with you. This is a good move by them to add some depth to a team like the Jaguars, who was very good on paper but lacked a lot of depth. So this is a good move by them. I look forward to seeing how these players pan out. As you know, the Fins also signed Eli Apple not too long ago after Jalen Ramsey went down. So I'm glad to see them addressing these issues. They just need to make sure that they're not overstepping their boundaries and make sure that they also get their guys back healthy, because the more continuity this team has, the better. Unfortunately, I feel like the Jaguars have slightly better continuity and are in a less defiant division to win, okay? The Jags are in the AFC South, where they're the clear best team, and that's not up for debate, versus the Fins, who are in the AFC East, which also have the likes of the Bill Belichick still-led Patriots, the Aaron Rodgers-led now by quarterback Jets, and of course the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills. All right, so that is a very hard division to play in. At any given time, it could be the hardest division to play in, and I look forward to seeing what all of these possible playoff contention teams will do, Fins included. Adding depth like this is only a sure way to help increase their chances of making a deep run into the playoffs, as I believe 3 teams from this division will make the playoffs, as they did in the past. Now, that doesn't say a lot for the rest of the AFC, but it's true. And especially with JB going down over there in Cincinnati, that division, the AFC North, now looks a little bit more up for grabs than it did before, depending on what happens with JB. Of course, we want JB to get well soon, but, that's for Cincinnati to determine and to figure out. Now, the first preseason game for the Finns is going to be versus the Falcons. That's going to be on Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m. All right, so if you're looking to see what this Finns team can do, obviously Tua may come in for a drive or two. I don't see him making it out of the first quarter, as he doesn't really need to, and plus keeping him safe is paramount. So I don't think it'll be necessary for him to play much if you're going to look for him. But if you want to see what the rest of this team has to offer, here we go. Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m., same time as the Bucs game. So if you're turning that one on, a couple of channels down will probably be the other game. You can just alternate. That's what I'm going to be doing, bouncing back and forth. So get ready for that, boys and girls. It should be a good game. Let's go ahead and get into our first break of the evening. When I get back, we're going to go ahead and discuss a little bit of what's going on in the NCAA as far as college football is concerned. We got a little bit of news coming out of the NBA, and then a lot to talk about with the Rays. After that, I'll give you what to look forward to watch for tonight on the AEW card. And as far as UFC Fight Night, you're not going to want to miss that. Keep it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio, your one-stop shop for everything that is sports across the United States of America. We're trying to get it all covered, guys. And I love doing what I do here in the South, as they do out west and up north, guys. So, now that we're back, though, here at Palm Tree Sports Radio, hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go ahead and get into some more news about what's going on, guys, around the NCAA in college football. Now, of course, with the return of NFL football, that means college football can't be too far behind it. For anybody that knows me knows that I adore this game, but the only thing that makes NFL football better is college football, because this is the future for us. And I myself personally believe that any given time, college football can be more exciting than the NFL. With that being said, the closer we get, the more information I'll have for you. Right now, there's just a little bit going on as these teams are still trying to wrap up who their identity is going to be come the end of summertime as we move into fall. Down here in the South, for those of you who do not know, fall lasts for 2 weeks to a month at best. Okay, and it's just basically October. All right, that's what the fall is for us. It's just October. There's nothing else. After that, then it gets pretty much into, winter time, and so basically, yeah, that's it. It's just a little tidbit for those of you who are wondering what it's like down here in Florida. That is what it is. Now, for the Gators, all right, because y'all know I'm a Gator. I bleed that blue and orange. Unfortunately, the only bit of news coming out of orange and blue land right now is that our starting tight end, Keon Zipper, was spotted at practice with crutches on. What does that mean? It means he was hurt. It's exactly what it sounds like, guys. I don't think it's a debilitating issue. I believe it was a high ankle sprain. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I believe it was a high ankle sprain. This is something that plagues college football players from the moment they start playing the game in middle school or high school to pretty much the time that they finish when they wrap up and they retire. Keon Zipper is a key part of the team, so here's hoping that this is not going to be a big deal because this was one of the go-to targets for the Gators last year. Keon Zipper is a big tight end. I believe he goes 6'4", so he's somebody who was an extreme threat in the red zone and also had tremendous hands for somebody playing at tight end position. I really hope that he's going to be okay because we will need him, especially moving down the stretch as we determine who we are going to be. If there's one thing I know about Billy Napier, he likes to have a good spread of talent all across the field, no matter what side of the ball he's on. That does not exclude the tight end position, hence Keon Zipper's injury being a big deal right now for the Gators. Hopefully he makes it back clean and healthy, no issues to be reported outside of that. And in the meantime, between time, that's pretty much it going on right now. The orange and blue game was a success, was not a very high-scoring game, and that part was a bit depressing. When it normally is a high-scoring game, that's when you know we have a lot of talent. So I really hope that this defense is really just that good at the moment, that we don't necessarily have to worry about scoring so much on offense as we do on just playing good defensive football. Sound football, guys. So that's what's going on there up in Gainesville. Across the street, the Noles. Their big news of the day or news of the week, especially with a lot of teams switching conferences, comes in the form of FSU debating on whether or not they want to leave the ACC. Now, this is something that we saw up for debate not too long ago between other teams and other conferences and in other divisions, whether it be the East or the West. But this is something that's been plaguing the entire college football world, to say the least. For those of you who do not know, the Red River rivalry, both Texas and Oklahoma, I believe, will be coming over to the SEC in 2025, I think is when the deal was signed. That's kind of a big deal because the SEC has already been considered the powerhouse and class of college football, which they have been for the last 2 decades. This only furthers add to the legendary status of which these teams already possess. And if those of you who are not familiar with the SEC, it would be teams not just the Florida Gators, but also those Georgia Bulldogs. Congratulations to them on their national championship, but boy, I'm not a fan. I'm not. But that's another team in the SEC. Again, the Tennessee Volunteers. Out west, you would have the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Auburn Tigers, the LSU Tigers. There are no shortage of legendary football teams from the college perspective in the SEC. So adding the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma only makes it that much better. Those are 2 teams that I'm very much impartial to anyway, and I will watch them play if they are on. So we will see what happens with the Noles. Rumor has it that it's revenue-based issues, but we all know what it comes down to. That basically just means if they leave the ACC and they were to play in the SEC, that they'd be able to generate a lot more money, which would also lead to better recruiting and more opportunities to be in bigger, more prime-time-based type games. All right, guys, and I hate to use the word type as much, but until they leave and join whatever they plan on joining, all right, Pac-10, Big 12, whatever, that's what it's going to be. The ACC is effectively run through Clemson right now, and they have been for the better part of the last decade since Jameis Winston brought that NCAA championship to the Noles in the rookie season of the 2020-13 campaign that he had, which saw him upset the Auburn Tigers, which was heartbreaking because that game was phenomenal. That Auburn team was a magical team. For those of you who remember, they were able to knock off both Georgia and Alabama on the final possessions of the respective ball games to win the SEC championship and then to obviously play in the BCS national championship, ultimately losing to Jameis Winston and said Noles. So there's a little history take on what took place there with the Noles, but since then they have been forgettable. All right, they have been. Let's just call a spade. And so with that being said, we'll see what happens. This is potentially a big deal. That's why I'm harping on it. Don't be surprised if you guys see the ACC shift up, starting with FSU leaving and going to another conference. In Miami, The real developing story in Miami is their new identity, who they're becoming. This team has not been relevant for the better part of 2 decades, so it would be very nice to see them take on a new persona, something that can see them bring success again, as they once had in the 80s and obviously the early 2000s and everywhere in between. Miami was once viewed as the most dominant college football team in college football for long periods of time. And to see where they have fallen would only drive the likes of Ray Lewis and all the other Miami Hurricane greats into heartache and a mental instability. So I would imagine that this team is finally getting back on the tracks of success, if you will, to kind of put it into a physical perspective. Again, Miami, they haven't really been relevant for the better part of 2 decades, especially as we're moving into the 2023-2024 season. I have no idea what this team is going to look like because we thought that they were going to look good last year and they looked terrible. Okay, so we shall see what takes place. I mean, I have faith in Miami, but Miami is by no means any team that I'm excited for. I should say, obviously, I'm a Gator. So go Gators, Miami. We'll see who you become more effectively. We'll see if you can be successful or not, right? So that's what it's going to come down to. Guys, that's what's going on in the NCAA. And like I said, once we get closer to kickoff, which is right around the corner for the college football season as it is for the NFL football season, I will have more details and more of what to expect. And then once we get closer, we'll talk about the top 25 as well. I'm hesitant to speak on the top 25 until the first week of the season is played, just simply because anything can happen in college football, literally anything. All right, a few years ago, we saw, Purdue beat second-ranked Ohio State. All right, and it was a doozy. It was an absolute, couldn't believe what we were watching, and that's why we watch. So let's move on over to the NBA and talk about what's going on there. Not too much as far as new news, but there is something outstanding, and just bear with me, guys. This is a bit of a warning. We will get political for a split second, just due to the nature of what's taking place. And I know you're thinking to yourself, Corey, getting political? This is a sports show. Just hang tight with me. This is actually a very interesting development, and this is something that will kind of scope your opinion on a specific team, especially once you know their stance behind the situation, okay? So first off, the Miami Heat have been trying to get Damian Lillard now for the better part of a month, okay? Maybe longer, but it's been a hot topic, for the better part of a month. And I'm not a chaser, guys. I'm not a chaser. I did that before. For all intensive purposes, let's do like a 20-second story time. I was once in love. I chased this female around, made a fool of myself, got embarrassed, and then forgot who I was and had to go relearn. That's why you don't chase, guys. If something's meant for you, you may have to work hard for it, but that doesn't mean you have to chase it. Okay? Chasing, especially a deliberate chase, like a cop chasing a perp, or like a dog chasing a bone, those are exactly what those are meant for, the field of work, and then for the dog to have and enjoy their bone. But life, the decisions that you make in life, such as chasing a basketball player, is not something, it's either you want this guy or you don't, okay? And the Trailblazers are the team that's making it complicated, not the Heat. So I'm not sure how much more the Heat will go, or, as far as putting time in would be concerned, I'm not sure how much more time that they will want to put in this specific scenario, trying to pick up Damian Lillard. There's a synopsis that people believe that the Heat will be fine with or without him, okay? And that adding him to the team isn't going to change much. Is he a tremendous ball player? Absolutely. But this thing has been going on for a month, okay? Let's get a choice, let's get a decision from the Trailblazers, and let's make a move happen, or let's not make it happen at all. But let's move on from this situation, because I'm pretty sure everybody down south in Miami is tired of the peekaboo, Tom and Jerry game that's being played here, especially by grown adults with millions of billions of dollars to be exact. So that's my opinion on that, situation. I'm not a big fan of it. However, that is one of the biggest issues plaguing off-season trade deadlines and free agency in your respective sport. If the guys want to make a deal, they need to make a deal. If not, let's get the heck out of town and call it a day. Now, here's where things are going to get a little political, okay? The Orlando Magic, okay? The NBA team for, obviously, Orlando, all right? They made a very sketchy move in what would you consider a financial political donation to Ron DeSantis, who is the leader, and I'm saying this, if you watch Rick and Morty, Rick does air quotations. I'm using my air quotations, the leader of Florida, okay? This is a little bit of opinion, but this is also for those, again, of you who don't follow much of what's going on in the sports/political affair of things. Ron DeSantis is not a great guy. He's not. He's made a lot of very weird and not very thought out decisions in his tenure here as the governor of Florida. And some of his decision making has led to drastic changes that affect people like myself, especially those of you who have children moving forward in the education system and then also in the economical system as it stands on its own. Florida is near the bottom in the education standard, so it's very sad to see a team that is well respected. It may not be doing well at the time, but it's well respected. It's kind of sad from the outside looking in, no matter what stance you take or where you're from or what you believe in, to see a team, submit a political financial donation to a man who is as sketchy as Ron DeSantis is. I'm not going to go full political on you guys because that's not what this show is about. However, it's important for you to know what's going on. Okay? Ron DeSantis has effectively run Florida into the ground, both economically, socially, and educationally speaking. That is not good. Alright? It's not good. We're probably in the worst place we've been in a long time. Gas is almost at $4 when it hasn't been at $4 for almost a decade now. Okay, guys? So, probably over a decade now at this point, for those of you who remember the recession. The Magic stepping out and saying, here's $50,000. That's not a good look because it's almost enabling bad decision making in a state that they reside in. Okay? So, I'm not sure if they did that for favor or if they did that for a headline or if they did it just because they had $50,000 laying around. I think they could have put that $50,000 somewhere else more respectable, like in a single mother's charity, or stopping the kidnapping, which is an epidemic here in Florida, children going missing with all the Amber Alerts and all of these issues that we're facing as a people, as a society. I think the Orlando Magic should have done a better and more decent decision and approach, taken a better, decent approach towards what they wanted to do with their money, and just funding it to the first guy who sits in a chair that happens to have governor next to his name was a horrible move, and it's getting a lot of backlash, not just on social media, but I imagine from other places around the United States, and I mean cities, alright? I mean full-blown cities, especially considering Ron is, wanting to run for president. As somebody who lives in Florida, let me tell you, he's not the answer. We don't want him as governor, and you should not want him as president. However, the Orlando Magic seem to have their minds made up of supporting him. So do with that information what you will, but it is a big deal in the scope of it, in this grand scope of things here in the United States, okay? So it is what it is. We'll have to see how that goes. We'll revisit that issue another time. But for the time being, guys, allow us to go ahead and get into our last break of the evening. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than the last one because when I get back, we're going to cover what's going on with the Rays, which is, like I said, that's the bulk of the information for this evening, guys. So I'm going to get into what's going on with the Rays, and then I'll give you guys what to look out for both tonight and tomorrow as far as sports will be concerned, and including the UFC fight card that's coming on tonight. Going to feature a couple of really good strikers in the bantamweight division, so hang around for that, guys. My name is Corey Pujols. I am your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Rate, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And if there's any of you guys who are into combat sports as much as I am, that is the show for you to go check out. He's going to give you everything you need to know about the world of combat sports, more specifically boxing, especially after that last fight that we just had, Spence versus Crawford. For the record, guys, I called it. I said Crawford was going to be the fresher guy. He's faced the better opponents more recently. He's been more consistent. And that's exactly what happened. But for a deeper dive into what's going on there, you got to check out Marcus with the gloves off. He knows exactly what he's getting into, and he is the man with the plan when it comes down to that. So check him out. But here we are at Palm Tree Sports Radio. I am back. Corey Pujols, your host. And it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And real quick, before we jump into the MLB, my man Adam asked me a good question. He says, am I ready for the start of football? Yes. Real quick, guys. Football was my first love at a very young age, at the ripe age of 4. My dad is listening to the show. He can probably tell you. I remember on Saturdays, before the Gators would play at noon, we would do yard work. We would cut the grass. And then afterwards, we had 2 trees in the backyard that were just in perfect position for me to be able to learn how to run routes. So my dad would actually have me run routes and toss me the football. And when I tell you, it translated when I got to middle school and I finally started to play football after I broke out of my doubt and my scared shell of failure and not being good at the game. Not only did I make the team, I was the first person to make the team unanimously. I mean, it was just a natural thing for me. I absolutely loved the game of football. Playing it was always something that just got my blood going. You know what I'm saying? Just the adrenaline's pumping. I can feel everything. I can see everything. My senses are completely alert. And I get a natural high, if you will, from playing that game. Just like I do from doing martial arts as well. So those two are one and the same for me. What a wonderful time it was. Thank you, Dad. I love you. I really appreciate it because that effectively blossomed into what I have today, which is a lot of knowledge about the game of football and more ready to be accumulated as we start this season. I can't wait, guys. I can't wait to see what happens here in this 2023 football season and the college football season as well. Now then, if we may, let's go ahead and jump on over to the MLB, guys. This is where I have the bulk of my information as far as updating would be concerned. I'm going to start actually from the bottom and work my way up, and the reason is very simple. That's because the trade deadline, as you guys know, already effectively ended, and the Rays decided to wait till the last couple of moments to do something about it. Nonetheless, the Rays have added Aaron Savale, Manny Rodriguez, and Alex Jackson before the trade deadline was complete. So, this is great additions. I would give them pretty much all B pluses or B minuses just based off of the initial look. We'll have to get them into the rotation to see how it works, and the main reason for this is because we were already able to find success. We just weren't able to stay healthy. Okay, I love this team, this Rays team, and I welcome all these new players. I really hope that we're going to be able to find continuity here, especially now that we're in the second half of the season, as the playoff push has begun already, and now we're getting into the throes of the true competition of the game of baseball. This is where the best teams are going to start to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. It's usually a little bit earlier after the break than what we've had. I would say probably a week or so earlier. But right now, because we have such teams that are on fire, such as, you know, the Braves and you know, the Rays were on fire at one point earlier this season. When you look at that, you are kind of forced to try to make your decision on who you want to rock with before the postseason starts, and that's where we're at. I'm always going to rock with the Rays, but here's hoping that these players can help add a little extra fire, especially to a team who has been, you know, dealing with debilitating issues as far as injuries have been concerned. We have had so many people, and it's a lot of reoccurring themes too between the pitchers and the outfield, where we've been experiencing a lot of injuries that seem to happen and then happen again and then happen again on a third time with select players. These players are all phenomenal. I'm not going to name drop anybody because the point is the continuity behind the team, but we got to stay healthy. We got to find a way to stay healthy. I'm not sure what we can do to become more healthy, but adding players is always going to be a good thing, especially since the trade deadline was right around the corner anyway. So I'm glad that the Rays did something. I really hope that it translates well for us, because at the end of the day, we're staring the playoffs in the face. We're going to make the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. But what I don't want to see happen is something that's happened so many times to the Rays before, which is on 2 separate occasions, make it to the World Series and get KO'd brutally by the other team, or to be one and done early in the playoffs, where you make the playoffs with a respectable team, but we can't seem to hold it together, and then injuries plague us, and then we end up losing a series early on or in the first round for that matter. Here's hoping that doesn't happen this year. My faith is in the Rays, but come on, guys, let's be honest. We're going to have to bring one home this year. I mean, I think it's more demanded from us than any other team this season. I'm sorry, I couldn't English there for a second, guys. But I think it'd be demanded from us more than any other team this season, just based off of the way the season has gone and based off of the star power that we already possess here on this team. Now then, as far as the games are concerned, we did lose to the Tigers today. We lost to Detroit 4-2 ball game, all right? Detroit, for all intents and purposes, is not a really good team this year, all right? Their record's sitting at 49-61. That's -12. The Rays are sitting at plus 21 right now with a 67-46 win-to-loss ratio on the season so far. That's good enough for second place in the AL East, which is pretty much where we've been since we lost first. We dabbled in third for a minute, but then we found our way back up to second. I think that this team is doing better this month. Oh, I don't say this month, but at least for the last 2 weeks than we did last month. And I mean specifically the first 2 weeks of last month, because let's just call it like what it was. It was really, really bad, all right? Pretty much post the break, it was terrible. And, now we're starting to get our footing back a little bit. Dropping one to the Tigers is okay, as we won the one yesterday. So now it's just going to move us over to tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be the final of the 3-game series. That game is going to be taking place at 1:40 p.m. So if you're looking for something to watch at lunchtime tomorrow, there you go. Rays, Tigers, Game 3 of the 3-game series. And then that will then push us over to the next series, which will be against the Cardinals. That game will also be a 3-game series, and that one will be starting Tuesday, August 8th at 6:40 p.m. So, like I said, tomorrow, wrapping up the 3-game series against the Tigers, and at 1:40 p.m., and then 2 days later, we will be headed over to play the Cards on Tuesday, again, August 8th at 6:40 p.m. Just in case you're checking for that, that is what's going to be going on for the Rays in their next upcoming games. Guys, we're getting really, really close to the end of the season, and like I said, this is going to be the area where teams start to separate themselves from, the rest of the pack. Teams like the Braves, teams like out west, what's their freaking name? Not San Diego, but is the Dodgers. We're gonna see what happens with all of these teams. Of course, some of your big norms haven't been playing as good baseball as you would expect this season, but as you mentioned, Adam, the AL East has been super strong this year with the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Blue Jays have all been upsetting teams left and right, especially in the AL East. It's always a struggle when you're in the same division, but it's like the SEC of college football right now. It's so much heavyweight banging going on for all intents and purposes, just straight leather hitting the face with these teams, and that's why I said the better teams are going to start to separate themselves, and that's what I look forward to seeing, because when the playoffs get around, it's not going to be about which team can separate themselves. There's going to be a lot of 1-1 ball games, guys, and you guys know how I feel about 1-1 ball games. That is how you win. That's how you win it all, realistically speaking. The teams that can win more 1-1 ball games than any other team in the league historically has just done very well when it comes to the World Series. So I expect to see it get very, very tight moving forward. And like I said, I can't wait to see what happens, but we're going to need the Rays to pull it together. We're going to need them to get healthy. We still got a couple of guys on IL. And, here's hoping that they're able to make quick recoveries and get back to the starting lineup, especially because we will need them when we make this deep playoff run. And I'm trying to speak this into existence, guys, because let's just be honest, it's been a doozy of a season, especially if you've been watching since the beginning. And I look forward to seeing, like I said, what happens between these top tier teams, mostly and more specifically the Rays and the Braves, because the Braves were the one team that were just shaking things up this season. You know, more specifically than even the Rays. That team has been hella consistent all season long. So let's see what happens there. In the meantime, between time, like I said, the next series is going to be the Cards. Get ready for that season, that series. It's going to be a good series. I look forward to seeing the Rays return to form there. Now, moving on from the MLB, let's talk a little bit of what's going on tonight here in combat sports. So first things first, if you guys are going to be into pro wrestling, I'm going to discuss that really quickly. AEW has their Collision card, which comes on tonight at 8 o'clock. I will probably dabble in it a little bit. I will be more focused on Fight Night, of course. But CM Punk will be defending his quote-unquote real AEW title versus Ricky Starks in the main event of Collision. So if you're looking forward to a great match, these are both great athletic people who met in the final round of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, seeing Ricky Starks snub out a win against CM Punk. So we will see what happens there. I'm a fan of Ricky Starks. The guy has it. CM Punk has returned. You know, I'm still on the fence about CM Punk. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how this second stint here with AEW goes, because as we all know, this guy's been known to shake things up no matter where he's gone, and that can be either a good or a bad thing for the company, but in this case, I'm hoping that it's a good thing, right? Especially now with his second stint returning to AEW's locker room. In the co-main event, there will be Chris Statlander versus Mercedes Martinez for the women's TBS Championship, I believe it is. That's going to be a great match. Chris Statlander already called out Mercedes Martinez, so that should be a good match between two very strong females. If you're into the female side of wrestling, that's what you should be looking out for. And then, of course, if you like tag team wrestling, FTR will be defending against Brian Cage and Big Bill. Brian Cage is already 1/3 of the Trios champions. I believe it is in Ring of Honor Wrestling. And then Big Bill, of course, is just a mountain of a man with a lot of tremendous wrestling ability. And he's pretty entertaining, to say the least. So I'll be looking forward to both that match and the match with CM Punk and Ricky Starks. But like I said, the more important thing for me this evening will be, and I would encourage you guys to go check this out because it's just a fight night. So it'll be on the ESPN app. It's Corey Sandhagen. Not to be confused with this Corey who's talking now. It's a completely different Corey. Corey Sandhagen is going to meet Rob Font in the main event of what would have been Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov had to pull out due to injury. It's unfortunate to see this because that was actually going to be a highly touted main event. It's still a fight that I would love to see if Umar can make his return. Collectively, maybe early next year, depending on his injury. We'll see what happens. But Umar Nurmagomedov still a stout 125er. I believe that's where we're at because we're in bantamweight. I believe that's 125. In any other news, Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font, two of the best strikers in the bantamweight division. So if you are looking for a main event that is surefire to have fireworks, I would encourage you guys pull up the app, get ready for Fight Night this evening. Both of these guys are going to be looking for title contention, especially if Corey Sandhagen wins. This guy's been at the top of the division for the better part of a decade. So guys, looking forward to seeing this main event. It's going to be a great main event. A lot of young fires taking place tonight as well. So if you're looking to see what the future has to offer for the UFC, now is a great night to check them out. Usually what Fight Night is all about, obviously with the main cards and number cards like UFC 292, which will be coming our way within a couple of weeks now. That'll be a card for us to look out for. That one is going to feature, if I remember correctly, that would be Aljamain Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. For those of you who know who Sugar is, he's one of the most exciting fighters in the entire UFC, the entire fight game right now. So looking forward to seeing that fight as well. In the meantime, between time, check out the Fight Night tonight. Corey Sandhagen, Rob Font. I'm going to go Corey Sandhagen, either second round TKO or first round TKO. I don't see this fight lasting very long. Both of these guys have dynamite in their hands, and they both are going for fireworks, okay? Nothing short of 4th of July, New Year's Eve. You get the vibes, okay? So get ready for that Fight Night if that's what you're going to be into. Outside of that, like I said earlier in the evening, we are going to have the CM Punk versus Ricky Starks for the quote-unquote real AEW title. Again, if you're into the pro wrestling side of things, that's going to be a great match for you to check out here on AEW's Collision card. And then, as I mentioned before, the Rays game already wrapped up today. That would have been the other bit of information on what to watch for today, but don't worry, tomorrow they're coming back for that to wrap up that 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers. That's everything I have for you guys. I really appreciate you guys joining me here on Palm Tree Sports Radio this evening and discussing everything going on in the world of sports. down here in Florida. As you guys know, I am a huge fan of football, so as we talked about earlier in the show, I'm looking forward to that returning. That would be tomorrow, I believe, will be the next game. I'll have to double check that information to be exactly correct, but not to worry. All three teams here in Florida will be playing next weekend, either on Friday at the same time, which would be the Bucks and the Finns, and then the Jags will be playing on Saturday. So check those games out if you guys want to see what these young talented teams are going to possess. All three of these teams have never been younger at the same time, may I add. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the talent we possess in all three areas of the NFL. And also, once college football returns, again, we will have a lot more to talk about then. In the meantime, between time, my name is Corey Pujols. I've been your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio. Again, I thank you for joining me here. Just some food for thought for you guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Rest. Don't forget to rest. Don't overwork. Don't overdo anything, guys. Get your rest. Take care of your bodies. Drink water. Spend time with your family. And let's get ready for some more football, baby. Okay? Anyway, I will see you guys same place, same time next week, every Saturday p.m. We are going to discuss what's going on here in the world of sports, guys. I have been Corey Pujols, your host, and as always is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. See you next week. Peace.